introducing today's speaker, G. Muralidharan, who is a retired Additional Director of Industrial Safety and Health, Government of Tamil Nadu. He is a BTech and MTech from PSG Tech, Coimbatore. He has 2 years of academic experience, followed by 31 years of experience in enforcement of industrial safety. He is familiar with all sorts of manufacturing activities and conducted many on-site as well as off-site emergency mock drills and safety training programs. He even managed a real-time emergency that is fired from a chemical loaded in a tanker to catch fire when water is poured way back in 2013. Now I request Mr. Muralidharan to start the presentation. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. My heartfelt thanks to GM Safety, Hashim Sabat, and the people coordinated with me, Abhishek, Rajesh, and who are all coordinated locally, Serum Steel Plant, Mr. Manivarnan and Mr. Muthukumar. Thank you very much. Welcome to the webinar, all of you, all my dear participants. In spite of COVID, we will be able to meet through this forum, this electronic forum. The technology upgradation would have made it possible thanks to the technology. This is a new experience for me. So talking to the invisible participant, talking computer, though you're all the participants are away from in all parts of India, I do feel all the participants are close to my heart. So thank you very much for having participated in this webinar. I'm going to take legal aspects of health and safety. The experts of Factories Act. Then what the Factories Act is telling to us about health and safety of the people who are working in site, in the shop floor and other areas of factories. I think you would have all safety people would have all come across these provisions in various point of time. So my class would be some sort of a discussion class. So I'm going to tell you what you already known facts already. You would have come across all those provisions of Factories Act. So at the end, we have some clarification, some question and answer session. Any clarification, you can talk to me. You can question me. You can get clarification. If it is not possible to clarify, just call me. You can get my phone number from the organizers. So at any time, anything, you have liberty to talk to me. I'll try to clarify your doubt. Okay, thank you. Actually, Factories Act stipulates how the occupier of the manufacturing industries maintain safe conditions inside the factory. So, what is his responsibility? To maintain safe working place for the employees to work. So, that is his primary obligation, to have a trouble-free, accident-free working place is a primary obligation of the occupier. Though the production, the quality will come afterwards. The first primary obligation is safety of the people, employees working under him. Very important. So I'm going to deal with the two provisions, health and safety provisions of Factories Act. So the health provision.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
No, sir. Actually, you have not shared your presentation. Kindly share your presentation.
Okay. Is it visible now?
No, it's not yet visible.
Sir, just go to the share content and then share your screen, sir.
Okay, 1 minute. Is it okay now?
Yeah, we are able to view it. Make it full screen, sir.
Is it okay?
Now it's okay. Now it's okay.
Okay. So there will be two topics: health and safety. The health provision will deal with ventilation, temperature, lighting, dust and fumes, manufacturing, cleanliness, drinking water, then toilet provisions. As far as safety is concerned, what are all the machine safety, material safety, and the people, the people who are working in the material and the machine. Actually, the Factories Act, Indian Factories Act, deals generally with all those provisions. Each and every state governments of India, their own rules. Every state government is empowered to enact rules on the basis of Factories Act provisions. We'll see one by one. Slide tells about how the industrial revolutions came into play. So, 1,000 years back, there were some industrial revolutions in Europe, especially in France and England. In some cases, France will dominate. In some cases, England will dominate. They had mines, so many mines, construction activity, construction of cathedrals, praying halls, construction of dams, construction of some river area. Then they were also went for woolen cloth manufacturing. So 1,800 years back. So for woolen cloth manufacturing, they have some sort of wheel. The wheel will be introduced in the stream of water. When the water is flowing, the wheel will rotate and they'll get drive from the wheel. That wheel is called a water wheel. So slowly that industrial revolutions came into play. So woolen cloth manufacturing, mines activity, construction activity. So construction of dams, small dams, bridges, all slowly the year go by go. After the year and year, they started to improve their industrial activity. One point of time, in the case of mines, they have to dig vertically downwards. So all will go down. And again, horizontally, they have to dig. So in some cases, people would be living inside practically, they would be living inside the mines. So in some cases, the bridge they constructed yesterday collapsed next day, and so many people's lives would be lost. So in some cases, they came across so many deaths during this activity. So this mines construction activity. So the governments came across so many deaths, so many fatalities. So at that time, the governments were thinking of coming with some regulation, regulating this activity. How the Mines Act, Factories Act came into play slowly. So at that time, the working hours were around 20 hours, in some cases 16 hours, in some cases 12 hours. Now in India, the maximum working hours per day is 8 hours. Slowly the revolution took place. The regulations are also, so many improvement came into regulations. The first Factories Act in India came into play in the year 1881. At that time, India was under British rule. So under British India, we had our Factories Act in 1881. Then so many improvements, then so many amendments came. After independence, we have got our own 1948, we have our own Indian full-fledged Indian Factories Act. So the regulation, the revolution of regulation, so this is called the Indian Factories Act. So every state government have their own factories rules. In Tamil Nadu, it is Tamil Nadu Factories Rules. So many other activities or safety rules were also there apart from Factories Act. But only is called the Building and Other Construction Works Act, Compensation Act, that Environment Act, Air Act, Water Act, Electricity Rules, Indian Electricity Act, Boilers Act. So many safety related acts are there. So the factories, as far as factories, factories are giving prime importance. Okay, next. Next slide shows what is the definition of the factory. So where 10 or more workers are working or were working for the past 12 months. Those are premises which have an activity, not today. Today they are having only 9 workers, but 1 month back, if they were having 10 workers, the premises will automatically coming under Factories Act. So the primary objective is 10 or workers should work. Then there should be a manufacturing activity. Manufacturing process should be carried on with the aid of power with 10 or more workers. If they don't have power, so in the case of crackers manufacturing unit, they don't have power. They have only all hand operated a cracker explosive manufacturing activity. In that case, if you don't use power, water, electricity, your minimum requirement of workers is 20 or more. That is that. So there should be a premises. We have 10 in the case of power, 20 in the case of non-power industries. Then there should be a manufacturing process carried on in the premises. So all these points are there. Then the premises automatically coming under the provisions of Factories Act. Then there will be a regulating authority into play. What is called a manufacturing process? So many work under the definition of manufacturing process. For example, making. You make anything, everything comes under the definition of Factories Act, manufacturing process. Altering, repairing, ornamenting, something connected with making of ornaments. Finishing, packing. So you do only packing. Somebody is manufacturing his premises. He sent every manufacturing product to you. If you are doing only packing activity with the aid of power using 10 or more workers, the packing activity premises automatically will come under the provisions of Factories Act. Oiling, washing, cleaning, breaking up, demolishing, or anything, any machine you are breaking up, demolishing, making it. So something connected with the wheels use, sale, so that the premises will come under Factories Act. Even pumping of oil, pumping of water, all coming under. If you are having a motor, 10 workers, pumping of a river water to a place, that premises will come under Factories Act. Sewage pumping. Then generation of power, transmitting of power, printing, book binding. Then the vessel, the ship and vessel construction, repairing. Then finally, cold storage. So anything you are keeping under cold storage, the cold storage unit having 10 or more workers, that area, that room, that cold storage shed will come under Factories Act. So many, so anything and everything under sun will come under Factories Act as far as manufacturing process is concerned. Almost everything is covered under the definition of manufacturing process. Then who is the owner of the factory? Occupier is the definition of occupier next. So naturally we know the person who started that business, that manufacturing activity is actually the occupier. So the person who has ultimate control over the affairs of the factory is the owner, the occupier of the factory. So in the case of a proprietorship concern, one fellow is there, he is the occupier. If there are partners, any one of the partners will be the occupier of the company. If it is a directorship concern, it's a public limited or private limited concern, it is any one of the directors will be the occupier of the company. All the directors or any one of the directors. In the case of a public sector undertaking, state or state government, manager designated, the person designated by the state or central government is the occupier of the company. So naturally, the top man of the industry will be designated as a occupier of the company in the case of government-owned units. And what is the definition of worker? A person who is working directly. We all know the directly working under the occupier and factory is a worker. Even a person working through another fellow contractor is also there. Worker under Factories Act. The definition of worker under Factories Act. Anyone who is directly working or even a worker working through a contractor, whether he is working for the remuneration or not, whether his work is 1 day or 1 hour or 1 year or continuous, something connected with manufacturing process, directly or indirectly employed by the factory owner is the worker of the factory. Any in cleaning any part of machinery, premises, even a security working through a contractor, somebody is not connected with manufacturing process is also a worker under Factories Act. A security worker, a cleaning worker, a worker who drives vehicle for the factory, something connected with the manufacturing process is also a worker under the definition. Actually, the objective is anything happens to the worker, he should be given the reward should go to him, the remedy should go to him. Because of that, all the workers who are all connected with the premises factory manufacturing process are working inside the premises.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes, tell me.
Sir, you have logged in from the laptop, na?
Yes.
But is your mobile on? Because there is your voice is not that clear and there is a certain echo there. If you have kept your mobile on also side by side, there will be an echo.
Okay.
Have you simultaneously logged in from the mobile also?
No. Mobile, I will switch off my mobile.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So next comes general duties of the occupier. What are the responsibility of the owner of the company, owner of the factory, occupier of the factory? So he should ensure the health and safety and welfare of all workers. He makes sure about the health, safety and welfare of workers working under him. So he has to provide and maintain a plant which is without risk to the safety and health of the worker. So the sufficient instruction, information, training and sufficient supervision should be given to the concerned worker. Suppose you provide a safe conditions. Despite providing safe conditions, if an accident happens, ultimately the occupier will be held responsible. What is that? Will tell the sufficient supervision is not given. So you provided a safe working environment. You have not provided him safe training. You have not have a safe supervisor to supervise him. So anything happens inside the factory, any incident, any dangerous occurrence, any accident, ultimately the final responsibility lies with the top man, occupier of the company. So he has to provide instruction, he has to provide training, so he has to provide safe conditions, and also he has to provide supervision for a safe working. So if after there was a huge changes in the Factories Act after Bhopal tragedy in '87, we had a very big amendment. That amendment, so every occupier of the factory should have a health and safety policy. It should be displayed. It should get approved by the Chief Inspector of Factories of the state. The safety health policy should be displayed and it should be followed scrupulously by the management of the factory. So some sort of responsibility lies with the manufacturer also. So the manufacturer who is supplying machines to the factory should adhere some safe practices. So he has to give a safe, without risk machinery to the factory people. That is this about this right. So this talks about penalty. If anything goes wrong, anything happens, interventions arising out of Factories Act. So there will be some prosecution. Case will be filed against the occupier managed by the company. So these are all the. If it is death inside the factory, it will be the minimum penalty is 25,000 rupees. It is a serious bodily injury, it is 5,000 rupees. If it is a repeated hours, daily fine will be imposed. Then even in some cases imprisonment is prescribed, but normally no court will go for imprisonment. Finally, only fine will be imposed. Any contraventions, any accident, any irregularity arising in Factories Act inside the factory, there will be a case filed by the factory inspectorate, and finally there will be a fine imposed upon the owner of the company. These are all the to be maintained research. So the next very important topic is health. So health, the first provisions of health is cleanliness. So you have to maintain your shop floor, your machine, all the other part of your factory cleanly. So floor, passages, staircase, everything should be clean. If you have a separate team for cleaning, in some cases you have to go for wash. So usual practice is after every shift, your floor will be swept, all waste will be cleared off. Then if it is necessary, you have to go for washing of your place. Then generally all your toilet should be whitewashed once in 14 months. The minimum requirement is once in 14 months. If you have a pakka bathroom and toilet with all tiles and everything, you need not bother about this pollution. So all your doors, your shutters will be painting. Painting is once in 5 years. If you have a pakka doors, you have a tiled walls, you need not bother about this pollution. So anything your waste, anything you produce as a waste should be treated. It should be treated. You have to get the consent of the required consent of the pollution control board of the state. So you have to dispose your waste, whether it is water waste or solid waste, cleanly and sufficiently. And also you have to get consent from your pollution control board, state pollution. So there will be some standards are prescribed as far as temperature is concerned. Don't bother much about it. If your machine is producing heat, you should have sufficient regulation for that. So you have sufficient exhaust fans. But usually this ventilation, temperature, lighting, everything should be covered under plan approval. So the local factory inspector for every factory would approach factory inspector for your plans approved by him. So in that plan, he stipulates everything. The usual practice is you have to have your minimum height of your factory building is, it should not less than 10 feet. So your factory building's height, the minimum height is 10 feet. 10 feet and above. So in every wall you have windows, so many windows. Every 10 feet you should provide one window. Once in every 10 feet, there should be one window with the measurement of 5 feet by 3 feet. The usual practice is 15 square foot in every 10 by 10 hall. So every 10 feet you have a 5 feet by 3 feet window. Above window there will be a 3 feet by 2 feet ventilator. So these are all the usual norms approved by factory inspector. So you should provide cross ventilation. Suppose you have a Each side you have a wall of a factory building, you have windows. So windows and ventilators. At any cost, your ventilator should not be kept closed. You should always open your windows and you can provide doors for your windows and ventilator, but always they should be kept whenever the manufacturing process is in progress, whenever the production is in progress, whenever the maintenance work is in progress, it should be kept open. You should not close the windows and ventilators. Suppose any untoward incident happens, so all your windows and ventilator, all will exhaust all your carbon monoxide. There is a fire accident. First gas comes out is carbon monoxide. If you have sufficient windows and ventilator, so automatically it will be out. So your people inside the factory will be safe. Always provide ventilators and keep always kept it open. So all these temperature, ventilation, lighting provision will be taken care of by the plants approved by us by the factory. Okay, so don't bother much about it. So that should be effective exhaust appliances. If you have a dust, if your machine produces enormous dust and fumes, you should have extra provisions for exhaust appliances. So this also you don't bother much. The usual practice is between one machine to another machine, there should be the 2 feet distance. There should be 2 feet clearance between two machines. The perimeter of machine, one perimeter of machine, another perimeter of machine. There should be 2 feet walking place or working place. If there is a material movement space between one set of machine and another set of machine, you should provide at least 3 area. If you have a lengthy shop floor, left side you have so many machines, right? Machines. You want walkway in between, it should be at least 3 feet in breadth. So between machine to machine, you have to provide 2 feet. For walking purpose, there should be 3 feet distance between one set of machines and another set of machines. So this is the usual norms. In one case, I'll tell you, in one case, they are manufacturing in Tamil Nadu, they are manufacturing shoes. They have so many material movement inside the factory using forklift. So they have 10 feet of moving space. Out of 10 feet, they kept 3 feet for workers and 7 feet for the vehicle movement, the forklift movement. So there will be markings in the walkway. So for every marking, if the worker wants to cross to the forklift movement, he has to go 10 feet, wait, has to see both feet, and then he has to cross. So that factory provides some sort of markings, and there is a separate place for movement of forklift and other vehicles. So some sufficient lighting, whether it is natural lighting or artificial lighting. So we have to provide sufficient lighting for the workers to work. So you don't bother about lux and all those things. Usually lux means for a 10 by 10 feet, 10 by 10 measuring room, if it is 65 lux means 45 watts of bulb. So this provision clearly tells you have a sufficient suitable lighting to be provided for the workers to work trouble-free. And this is a very important provision. So to provide at least 4.5 liters of drinking water for every worker. So sufficient drinking water should be there. So this is a drinking water be cleanly maintained. You should have a public water system, some sort of this RO plant, something like that. If you have more than 250 workers in the factory, there should be a water cooler to provide cooling water to the workers who are all wanting cold water. It's for toilets. This latrine and urinal accommodation. Latrines, for every 20 workers, you have to provide one toilet. So if you have 100 workers, 5 toilets. More than 100 workers means for every 50 workers, you should provide one toilet. It should be cleanly maintained, proper water facility should be there. It should be whitewashed once in 4 months. So generally, all your other things are within 14 months. This toilet alone once in 4 months. So this is also a provision. It's a long back. It is. So you have to provide greenery in your factory. This is the objective of this provision. In every factory, more if you have more than 100 workers, you have to have a green trees inside your premises. This stipulates. This slide stipulates some of the diseases arising out of the professional disease. So if you use lead, there will be a lead poisoning disease. So there will be experts in medical field. Certifying surgeons are available. You have to contact them. There is some irregularity, some ill health. If he finds out any one of these diseases, you have to tell, you have to inform the factory inspectorate. So next comes these are all the health provisions. Not much to maintain. We are all very easy. These are all very easy provisions to maintain. Next comes safety provisions to be maintained inside the factory for trouble-free working. Parts. If it is fly mover, flywheel, electric motor, generator, transmission machinery, any dangerous part of any machinery should be covered intact. So these are all safety covers. So the safety cover should be intact so that your hand or finger should not be inserted. So any machinery should be covered by safety cover or should be fenced by safety cords, safety fence. So everything should be covered. Any dangerous part of any machine. There should be cutting of power. So if the operator is willing, he can stop the machine by cutting of the power. Then there will be a general cutting of the power in the shop floor. So whenever you want to just to switch off the machine, you have a provisions. Very easy. So in all machinery, any projected parts, any revolving shaft, any spindle, any pinion, anything and everything in the machine, any dangerous part of the machine should be enclosed, encased completely. So next comes hoist and lift. So these hoist and lift should have a special, other than that, it's the special provisions. So they should have a sufficient, strong mechanical construction of sound material and adequate strength, because this hoist and lift vertically travel from one floor to another floor. The material can be taken in those lift and hoist. All human beings should be traveled in those hoist and lift. So importance should be given to lift and hoist provision. So these lift and hoist should be tested once in 6 months by a already predetermined competent person. So he will come to your unit, he will test and issue a certificate once in every. There will be a prescribed format prescribed by the concerned state governments. So in that form, if he will fill the form and he has to sign and issue a fitness test certificate. So without a test certificate, you are not supposed to use those lifts and hoists in your factory. So that should be, we all know that we traveled several times in lift and hoist. There should be a lift way. In that lift way, nobody cannot enter. So there will be a cage like thing, there will be a lift way in which the lift moves. There will be an enclosure fitted with gates which prevents any other person caught between the lift way and the lift. So there should be a fence, there should be a gate there should be a safe enclosure for the lift. Safe working load, the maximum load should be carried on by the lift and hoist should be marked sufficiently inside and outside. And in the case of hoist and lift, the enclosure, the enclosure should have an interlocking device. So if my lift comes to the floor, I should be able to open the gate. If my lift is in between two floors, the gate should not be opened, or the lift gate or the enclosure gate should not be kept open, for which you should have a interlocking device. If the lift and hoist comes and settle in the floor, the exact floor, the floor door should open. There will be some electrical and mechanical interlocking device you should provide. There should be a regular maintenance of interlocking device. If anything goes wrong, you should not use that lift. So it should be prohibited from using by workers. So other than lift and hoist should be tested once in 6 months. Say any weight lifting equipment other than lift and hoist, we have EOT, we have mobile cranes, we have forklift. So many lifting equipments are used in our factory. Those lifting equipments, lifting machines should be tested once in a year by the competent person. So these are some examples. This is forklift, crane, crab, winch, toggle, pulley. So all the other things are part and parcel of lifting equipment. This is a mobile crane. This is the EOT crane. These are all some of the parts which is made used in the use of lifting machines. Chain, sling, rope, sling, hook, shackle, coupling, tramp. So many small parts are there displayed here. So each and every part of the lifting machine is very important. So the competent person comes and tests. He has to test each and everything, not only the interlocking arrangement, not only the lifting arrangements. Each and every part of this part and parcel of lifting equipment should be tested, should be visually tested by him, and he should issue a certificate, test certificates. So this is other than hoist and lift, all these chain pulley blocks, hand operated chain pulley block, everything should be tested by the competent person once in 12 months. So the maximum safe working load should be displayed open brightly in each and every place of the example. Minimum safety requirement. Okay, you should not go near if it is a moving lifting equipment is in the movement. You should not go near. From safety point of view, you should not no person should be to go near the machine which is in the process of lifting loads. The crane operator will be sitting at the top. So the crane operator will be medically examined once in 2 years for his trouble-free eyesight. So the next comes the abrasive wheel. Abrasive wheel, you have to display what is the surface speed, something like that. So we finished testing of lifting tractors and testing of lifts and hoist. Next comes pressure vessel, anything which contains water or gas, which is more squared pressure. That is called a pressure vessel. That pressure vessel should be tested by a same thing, notified person. In Tamil Nadu, we, the factory inspected people ourselves, go and test and issue certificate. In some other state, notified person coming from outside, go to factory and issue the certificate. We in there, all safety provisions are there. So all the pressure plant means all your piping, all your system of pressure vessel contains vapor, liquid or gas. the diagram of a horizontal pressure plant. So these are three or four safety provisions. You should have it should have adequate strength. It should have a good construction. There should be a safe working pressure. So the safe working pressure should be marked in the name plates. There is another pressure. This is called design pressure. The safe working pressure is less than the design pressure. The design pressure and safe working pressure should be marked in your nameplate of the pressure plant. So your the working pressure should not exceed safe working. For that purpose, you have to provide one safety valve. If your pressure increases, then the your safety valve should open and ease the pressure. So you have to provide one safety valve. Provide one pressure gauge. It measures and tell you the pressure you are operating. Then you have a suitable globe valve. There should be a drain valve to drain all the fluid inside the air receiver. There will be fluid collection. So you provide a in the bottom. So then and there you have to drain otherwise there will be corrosion and erosion. So apart from that, there in cases they provide switch. The pressure switch is electrically operated pressure switch. Other than the safety valve is mechanically operating. And they have pressure switch which stop the motor of the compressor if the pressure increases, if it increases more than the safety pressure. So there will be pressure switch. In some cases, you have to produce if the pressure you produce is more, it is stored in some other vessel. Through pipeline, the pressure is the pressurized air is coming to the process, means you have to keep a reducing valve to reduce the pressure which is stored in a high pressure category. The boiler which is not come under any small boiler which is not coming under the Boiler Act, automatically coming under Pressure Vessel Act. So these pressure vessels should be tested. So every state has their own rules for this. In Tamil Nadu government, externally it is once in 6 months. Hydrostatically, it is once in 2 years. You can also go for ultrasonic test. The thickness tester, it is once in 4 years. The competent person will come and test and issue a certificate. In all the cases, if it is not having the norms, it will be rejected by the competent person not to use it. You can go for repair, you make it right, and again contact your competent person, again go for a piece. So all this thin walled pressure vessel is this is mainly used in textile industries. Sizing cylinders are called thin walled pressure vessels. They are using steam as their fluid. Escape not. So these are all the main provisions of equipment testing. So next comes personal protective equipment. I displayed some of the personal protective equipments. Just to go through it. This is all face shield and eye protection. Helmet. So every safety equipment should come under the category of IS, Indian standards. So without Indian standards, it should not be allowed. So Indian IS certified personal protective equipment you are supposed to use. This is your safety helmet, goggles, some of the mask whenever you in the dust and heat, hot atmosphere. Some sort of SCBA you should use in the case of any chemical usage. Self-contained breathing apparatus is prescribed. It's called SCBA. It should have all your face shield with breathing apparatus. So it is also having sufficient oxygen cylinders, self-contained breathing apparatus. Whenever you work in a chemical atmosphere, any gaseous atmosphere, any underground work, any cleaning of underground tank, you are supposed to wear SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus. So these are all various types of face protection and then protection. Ear plug, you have a voice. Various gloves are prescribed here. You can decide about the gloves. In some cases, gloves is not necessary. Gloves are not necessary. So this is your fall protection, safety belt. Whenever you work, when you at height above 2 meters, you are supposed to issue safety harness, fall protection device to the workers. So this is all fully body covered apron, shoes. So in the case of any fragile roof, if you are making your working above breakable roof, but suppose ladders, sufficient ladders, duct ladders, safety belts, crawling boards. Crawling boards will be kept above the fragile roof, and you can walk without any problem. So in most of the accidents, the height is the culprit. So whenever you wish your workers working at height, kindly provide these sufficient ladders and safety belts. So this is some safety belt, fall protection. These are all protective equipment, personal equipment for grinding, welding. There is special provision for fire. So you should have a practical, easily adoptable measures in the case of fire to safeguard your workers. In simple terms, in the case of fire incident, you should have all facilities to safeguard your workers working in the staff floor. So you should have a external staircase, emergency exit and staircase outside of the building. So just like any fire occurs, people will come in every floor, they'll come safely coming out of the fire area. You should have an emergency exit, regular exit and emergency exit. You have a fire extinguishing mechanism, fire monitors, sufficient hoses, fire lights. So if you wish to have any explosive manufacturing, any serious fire hazard material you wish to use, you wish to produce, you have a segregated building for that. In textile mills, there also, as far as textile industry is concerned, all those fiber articles, all those fiber products will be moved, will be transported through ventilation ducts. So in the case of pneumatic conveying through ventilation ducts, you should provide a flame arresting provisions for that.
Muralidharan sir, excuse me,
Yes.
sir. Like you are a little less audible. There is a little lack of clarity.
Okay. Now, is it okay now?
It is better now.
Okay.
This tone is better.
Okay. Keep my mouthpiece near my mouth. Okay. So in fire, in the case of fire provision, the stocking area, the stock the godown plays a very important. So between your pile of material, at least you should provide 3 feet, 90 centimeters between one pile of material and another pile. The passage between machines, the piles of material should be 90 centimeters. Then the top portion of the stocking pile between roof and top portion of the stocking pile, there should be 6 feet clearance. At least there should be 6 feet. So your any static charge production, you should go for anti-static agents. Then you should provide, your workers should wear shoes without iron nails. There should not be smoking inside the factory. You should have a lightning arresters. You should not use matches and lighters. Those things should be followed. So as I already told you, you should have adequate ventilation. As far as the shop floor is concerned, you should provide ventilator as well as windows. In the case of godown, stocking place, you should at least provide sufficient ventilator. Every 10 feet of your godown, you should provide one ventilator, 5 by 3, 5 feet by 3 feet, 3 by 3 feet by 2 feet, 6 square feet measuring ventilator should be provided every 10 feet of your godown wall. That should be a cross ventilation. So you have to provide in both walls. You have to provide ventilator in every 10 feet. So flammable liquids should be prohibited inside the workplace. So minimum quantity, 25 liters you can keep with the sufficient safety protection. So otherwise, your flammable gas should be stored outside of your shop floor area. There should be a special container, a special stocking place for flammable liquid and gases. So no flammable waste should be permitted inside the shop floor for accumulation. Then and then you have to remove it by sweeping and cleaning. So you have sufficient firefighting equipments in your shop floor. So at least you have to provide every 15 people, you should have one mobile firefighting equipment. Other than your fire hoses and monitors, first aid firefighting equipment you provide at least every 15 feet of your shop floor area. So this you can see. So about weight, so Practice Act stipulates every adult male can lift 50 kgs. In the case of adult female, it is 30 kg. So some sort of regulation is there. Most of the machine is being used. So for a male worker, he should not lift more than 50 kgs. If he is not able to lift it, definitely you have to give one more worker to lift, to move any load. These are all the main concept of fire prevention. So any accident occurs inside the factory, so you have to send a notice to the concerned factories department. Inspectorate of factories, you have to inform any accident which makes the worker takes more than 48 hours leave. If he is abstaining from work due to accident inside the factory more than 48 hours, there should be a notice sent to the factory inspectorate. There is a special format for it. The state government is prescribing format. So in that format, you have to inform the factory inspectorate about the accident, about the gas leak, any accident, any incident. In the case of any dangerous occurrence, any fatal accident, you have to inform immediately to the authorities. In the case of any accident, a small injury, making him taking leave more than two days, you have to inform after 48 hours. Fatal and any gas leak or any fire, information should be given immediately. So if you are employing more than 1,000 workers, you have to provide at least one safety officer. So functions of safety officer stipulated here. So this is very, very important provision. After Bhopal tragedy, this came into play. After 1987, you have a big amendment in Practice Act. There should be workers' participation in safety management. So you should provide a safety committee in every factory. Normal provision is if your factory is a non-dangerous factory, it is 250 or more workers, you have to provide. In the case of a dangerous operation factories, a chemical factory, a hazardous process factory, and all explain in the coming slides. So if you are having dangerous operation or hazardous process, you are definitely a safety committee if you exceed more than 50 workers. So safety committee, you have a equal representative of worker and management staff. So there should be a stock man as head of safety management, as general manager or manager, and also a safety man, safety managers, safety officers, other important functionaries of the management should be in one side, and all the in other worker side, equal number of workers should be there in the safety committee. If you have 10 management staff in safety committee, you have a 10 worker member in safety committee. So that should be, its tenure is 3 years. Then you have to change people. And you have to meet, the safety committee should meet once in 3 months to address any safety related issues, any improvement, anything should be taken care of as far as safety is concerned. 3 months. So these are all the duties and the functioning of safety committee. Naturally, it should assist the management to run a safe environment, a safe working. So these are some of the these are all the some of the dangerous operations are stipulated by the state government. This is stipulated by the government of Tamil Nadu. For example, electroplating is a dangerous operation. So if you are manufacturing electroplating, you have 50, more than 50 workers, you have a safety committee. So grinding, glazing, generation of petroleum, usage of petroleum, graphite powdering, dyeing factories, porcelain, chemical, ceramics, chemical factory, fireworks. These are all coming under the definition of dangerous operation. So this hazardous process. So after the Bhopal tragedy, this progress. There is a separate, special provision, hazardous process factory. So these are all the hazardous process factories stipulated in factory. These you have a definitely you have a safety committee, safety officer, everything comes into play. For example, petroleum industry, say petroleum storing, oil storing, rubber industries, paint, paper industries, irrigation units, iron steel companies, all comes under hazardous process units. It's man-made fiber manufacturing unit, solvent extraction. They use solvent, very flammable solvent. So these are all coming under special provisions are there for this hazardous process factory. So these hazardous process industry should have a they should have a site appraisal committee officer. So suppose you are going to install one hazardous process factory, you have to inform the concerned state governments in advance. So to get one special permission from the site appraisal committee approval. So you have to give the people around when you are going to install process factory, you have to provide the in and near the vicinity of the factories, the people who are working, living, but inform about the manufacturing activities of your unit to them. So you have to take them into account. So you should have also on-site and off-site emergency control plan with you. In the case of how you act, how you come out of that situation. You should arrive a plan and submit to the authorities and get it approved. So anything there is some disclosure of information by the company to the general public. So you should have a safety management participation, safety committee have So in the case of hazardous process factory, anything goes on inside the factory, the workers are empowered. The workers are empowered to notice any imminent danger to the government or to the safety committee, to the owner of the company, to the manager of the company, so that immediate remedial measures should be taken. So any gas leak, slowly it starts. The worker should definitely go and tell the authorities coming out of that gas leak. So you have to, in the case of hazardous process units, there should be a records. Once the systems, all workers should be tested, medically tested. So you should also have, if you have more than 50 workers in a hazardous process factory, you should have a full-fledged occupational health center. So you should have a medical officer, assisting staff, medical staff should also be there in your occupational health center. All the occupier of hazardous processes should come out with a safety, health, and environment policy. It should be displayed and it should be followed. This is a model system. So this safety and health provisions are almost over under Factories Act. Now, now I am just coming to on-site emergency plan. How to make out, how to deal with that. So you should already, if you have a petroleum product, if you have a certain process, if you have chemical manufacturing setup, definitely you have your on-site emergency preparedness plan. In the case of any fire, in the case of fire, in the case of gas leak, in the case of explosion, how to react, how to come out of that situation. Already you arrived on plan. In each and every on-site emergency preparedness plan, the top man of the industry should control everything. So he is called a site controller. So everything will be in the stipulated in the plan. So you have to carry out the plan in the case of any emergency. Okay. So my suggestion to you is you have to update your plan then and there. Whenever a new shop, a machine is coming, any change of layout is there, any new product is coming out, any new chemical is being stored, any capacity of the storage vessel is increased, you have to go for a updation of this on-site emergency preparedness. Then every employee has a role to play in the case of emergency. If I am a security man, I have my own role to play. If I am a top man of the management, I will control the emergency. If I am a mere contract worker, what I have to do is I have to go away from the emergency. I have to go and calmly wait in the safe assembly area. So without any panic, I have to go without disturbing any other person. I have to run away to the safe assembly. So each and every person of the worker working inside the factory have a plan role to play. So you have to tell them then and there in your meetings, in your safety committee, deliberations. The role of each and every person should be definitely explained to them. So they should, in the case of emergency, everybody should act according to their. So you have to conduct so many mock drills, you have to go so many training programs for this preparedness plan. So any new guy is coming, you have to tell them this is our setup. So in the case of any emergency sign in his head, so your responsibility is go and wait there or do this work, something like that. So any new employee, whether he is an officer or management staff or a mere contract worker, he should be told about his role to play in the case of emergency. So you have to conduct, then and there you have to conduct mock drills. You need not conduct mock drills for full-fledged. Go for a simple mock drill in a unit, in a small shop floor, go for a simple mock drill, then extend it to another shop floor. After some training, full-fledged training, after making sure you can manage everything, go for a full-fledged mock exercise of full factory, training everybody and do it. In the case of any mitigation activity, so keep minimum trained people as a replacement for them. So do this mock drill exercise daytime, after some time, night time. So inform them. First, you inform everybody. Make it a shift end of the shift during lunch interval. In some cases, night. In some cases, you have national holidays, in which production is not there. You have a minimum staff. So, in the case of any emergency during national holidays, how to react? Go for some rehearsals during national holidays also. So, discuss everything in detail and come to a conclusion and just fine tuning yourselves. So, whenever you are doing it then and there will be a fine tuning, and there will not be any panic during in the case of emergency. So we came across recently so many emergencies. There was a styrene leak in Visakhapatnam. There was some blast in a boiler area in National Thermal Power NLC in Neyveli. So we came across so many emergencies after during COVID period. So this is very important to give maximum importance to this mock exercise in your unit. So just I display some of the safe working area. Some slides are there. So I explained on another 10 minutes. I explained 1 or 2. So the housekeeping is very important. This tells about how to maintain a safe working area. So you have to keep good housekeeping in your working place. So there should not be any obstacle. So if your walkway is 3 feet, there should not be any obstacle for the worker walk inside the factory. So this spillage should be avoided. Stocking should be very in a positive way, in a safe way. You have to stock your materials. So everything should be given importance as far as safety is concerned. But there should not be any obstacle like holes. So lighting, ventilation, sanitation. So these are all added advantage. If you give all some good uniforms, if you have some placards, if you have posters, safety posters, these are added advantages. Personal body equipment, shoes. If you have sufficient this type of protective equipment, definitely your worker will be happy to work. Face protection, plus safety aprons. Normally, definitely it should be avoided. Okay. Helmet. Some sort of cautionary notices. So the machine is under repair, don't operate. Some sort of safety slogans, safety placards. So in one safety protocol is, in the case of any emergency, anybody should be able to stop your machine. So there should be emergency stop. It should be displayed openly and brightly. So anybody will be able to stop in the case of emergency any machine. Provision should be there. So loose clothing should be avoided whenever you work near a rotating machines, rotating parts. You should be very careful. There should not be insertion of hands. Then you should not keep your machine unattended. Very unsafe. Unsafe equipment. This is very unsafe equipment. So protected part. Electrical equipment, unsafe electrical equipment. And once more. Faulty equipment. Insulation. Live wires not taken care of. Cables, unsafe electrical. So stock, no, it is not stocked properly. So there should be 6 feet gap at the top between your roof and the top of the pile should be 6 feet at least. There is no space between two piles. This is the movement material, this manual thing of heavy load. You should not use your backbone. It should be straight. Always it should be straight whenever you are lifting a load. Tools, you have to provide safety, suitable tools to workers. So fire prevents already we saw. So some okay. So the people who are trained to extinguish fire should be trained fully. First aid box, you have to provide first aid box in each and every shop floor. It comes under the welfare provisions of. So it should be full always. First aid, you should always have a first aid trained person with you. So for chemical there should be a first aid treatment inside the factory itself. You should know the ways and means of treating first aid. After that, you can take the injured person to the hospital. Hard work, there will be a safe operating procedures about gas leak, how to curb gas leak. These are some of the displays, just you will go through it. So this is stocking of gas cylinders. That should be safe stocking of gas cylinders. They should not handle like this. Forklift operations, unsafe operation of forklift. So blind corner, there should be a procedure whenever the forklift moves, travels in the blind corner. It is overloaded. So connected with material handling by forklift. So any unsafe conditions, you have to inform the management. Shortcuts, you have to avoid shortcuts. So no work, no play inside the factory, not play, distraction. So better to avoid loose clothing as well as loose cloths, jewelry, anything which will be attracted by rotating parts. So better to avoid. So these should be avoided. That's all. Hello.